Hi, this is Bobby Ryan of the Detroit Red Wings, and you are listening to Empty Betters with Nick, Mac, and Harrison.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to episode 67 of Empty Betters. I'm your host, Harrison Schulz. I'm going to toss it across the screen to my co-host, Nick Manella. How we doing, buddy?
Best week of the year.
We're in for a good weekend, eh?
Yep, it is finally here. They robbed us of it last year, and Sparty got absolutely robbed of it the year before that, but it's March Madness. My favorite sporting event, like single sporting event of all time. So I cannot wait for these first 4 days where there's basketball on from noon Eastern time to like midnight Eastern time. I am going to be unavailable for the next 7 to 10 business days. So do not call, do not text, and do not expect a response from me.
You got the Sparty hat on, so I can see your yeah, okay. Now he's rocking. We all know. We all know. Well, so who do they have in the first game?
So they have to play in, which I think
they're in
is
the play-in.
Ridiculous. Okay. But it's like, why is the 11 seed a play-in? Like, I understand the 16 seed being a play-in, but
yeah,
like the 11 seed, you have to have two, but like really 12, 13, 14, 15, like you couldn't. So they have to play UCLA, which is going to be a tough matchup, but I think they can swing it.
So before I introduce Mac, because I'm going to forget, we actually have Nick and I, one of our good buddies from college, we have Corey Goldstein joining the podcast at the end of the episode to talk a little March Madness. He is a diehard college basketball fan. Hopefully he can give you guys some underdog picks, some bracket advice. We're recording this on Tuesday, March 16th. So you'll have a couple days after this drops to make your brackets. And now I'm going to introduce Mac on the West Coast. How we doing, buddy?
I'm feeling good. I have some exciting news to announce. I know I mentioned I'm going to be moving in about a month back to the good land, Milwaukee, but I'm proud to announce that I have recently signed a contract extension with Team Pinnacle of the Wisconsin Amateur Beer League for a annual salary of me paying them $200 because that's what it costs to play. And I guess you could include in the salary beer. I mean, I usually get some free beer out of it too. So big contract deal for me that I signed just yesterday, but I will be returning to Team Pinnacle. Our jerseys are orange and there's nothing on the front of them. So it's pretty awesome.
Nice.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations. We want game footage. We need interviews. We need guests, all that good jazz.
Yeah, I'm pretty hyped. I did play in this league my like last 2 years of college. It's just like a little local league, mostly made up of, I'd say the average age is probably like 26 or 28 or something.
That's a good mix. Yeah.
But there's kids from like 19 or 20 all the way up to like some guys in their 60s that are still like moving around on their skates. So yeah, it's pretty cool, but it was fun. It's a good level of like, this is fun. And every team has a couple like good players that are like fun and challenging to play against, mixed with we're all drinking like beer before, during, and after.
Like it's not too goofy, but it's not too like
exactly.
I'm here because I would have gone pro if it wasn't for my bum knee kind of thing.
Exactly, which that's me. Exactly. I've got a bum knee, so that's definitely the only reason I didn't go pro. So I do have one really quick story from last year's beer league, and then we'll get into some news around the league, but I think this is a good one. It was what we like to call at Marquette St. Practice Day, which is right around this time. It's like a week before St. Patty's Day. There we go. Harry's got the St. Pat's jersey, but it's like, you're practicing for St. Patrick's Day. So you get just as drunk as you would on St. Patrick's Day, but you're just trying to make sure like your limits the first day so you don't screw it up the second day, So I'm going hard. We're day drinking all day long. It gets to like 6 p.m. and I realize I have a hockey game that night. And I was like, I mean, I don't have to go. Like I can miss some, but like I've paid for it. I kind of want to go, Yeah. Now I don't drink and drive. Never do that. So I text a member on my team. He's like 30. And I'm like, any chance you could swing by like Marquette's campus? I know it's kind of on your way, and just like scoop me up like on your way and I can play. And he's like, yeah, sure. So I find out that I'm going to be playing and I don't have to drive. So I continue to just get like more and more drunk. And then two of my friends end up like finding out what's going on. They're like, oh, we want to go to the game. So now my buddy picks up me and the two others and literally picks up like 3 college students, takes them to this beer league game. I played terrible. I was awful. I couldn't even like skate out there. I was falling all over the ice. I think I may have managed to score a goal somehow, but like it was a mess. It was a mess. Can't remember. And yeah, they were making noise in the stands, embarrassing me the whole time. It was just not one that you want to remember, but I will remember it forever. So
that's awesome.
Excited to be back in that league and maybe have some more times like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Proud, but not proud of that one all at the same time.
Yes.
It's a wonderful mix of emotions.
And on that note,
before
phenomenal timing.
That was incredible.
Yeah.
Before we get on with the league news and get you guys all up to date, we do want to say that we were fortunate enough to be joined by actor Patrick Dempsey. For those of you who are unfamiliar with him, he played Mike Eruzione in the Disney movie Miracle on Ice. So that's pretty cool. Talked to him about what it was like filming, the cast members, his relationship with the director, his experience with all that, and what he's up to now. He's doing some pretty cool stuff now that involves Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, which is pretty awesome. So that interview will be at the middle of the episode. But for right now, we're going to start off with the league news, and I'm going to toss it off to Nick to drive the bus.
So this was pretty cool. The NHL, we sort of knew that their time with NBC as their flagship platform was coming to an end. And like we all expected, they signed a 7-year deal with ESPN and ABC for the TV media rights, whatever you want to call it. So I was sort of torn when I saw this. I don't know what your guys' thoughts were. I'd stated my concern about this. I think it was 2 episodes prior, maybe 1. I don't know. My brain's mush. But basically what this does is it includes 25 regular season games that are going to be televised on ESPN or ABC, early round playoff series, and 1 conference final each year, 4 Stanley Cup final series on ABC, and more than 1,000 games per season streaming on ESPN Plus. And then ESPN Plus and Hulu, which falls under that ABC, ESPN, Disney umbrella as well, will be home to 75 ESPN produced exclusive telecasts per season. So definitely a lot of content here. I think, like the All-Star game and, whenever that comes back, all that stuff will obviously be included. And then the NHL TV package, if you want to watch out of market stuff, that's going to be moved over to ESPN Plus as well. So what do you guys think about this? What was your first impression? And what do you think that we can expect from the NHL on NBC or on ESPN now?
Well, I'm definitely going to have to get ESPN Plus now because I've been doing center ice since, the dawn of time in 2005, it feels like. I like the move. It's the right move. You kind of have to be with ESPN if you want to be relevant. I think even golf is typically like an NBC thing, but I think the Masters is on ESPN usually, isn't it? CBS. So does golf not get ESPN?
I don't know.
I guess that's a weird question to ask right now, but anyways, yeah, this is the right move by the league. To put it in perspective, I mean, they still have TV room for another network, so this isn't going to be exclusively ESPN. NBC is said to renew, some type of smaller deal that's like a part-time gig, and then the NHL will be like half NBC, half ESPN. Fox could also be in the bidding, so we don't know yet. But if you're going to be with the big dogs and you're going to grow the sport, then you definitely got to be on ESPN. It's the one station that's on at every sports bar, every, gym, dentist office, waiting room, you name it. That's what's going to be on the television. So I think that's pretty good for the league. So I read this and I wasn't totally understanding. So included will be 25 regular season games on ESPN. So that means throughout the entire regular season, they only get 25 games on like primetime ESPN
like
channel.
the primetime national coverage, like what we
Okay.
would get on like the big NBC now.
Seems kind of low, doesn't
Is
it?
the way I understood it. And I'm not surprised by that considering how much other stuff they have to cover.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's them meaning like just, you know, flagship ESPN and just like flagship ABC, or if that also includes ESPN 2, 3, you know,
Right.
whatever their other, you know, subdivisions are.
Right.
I would hope it's the first thing.
Yeah.
Because at least if it's only 25 games, at least let it be like the big dog, you know. I'll say a quick note on all of this. I think there were two major takes going around, and you were kind of on one side or the other this past week. After that was the Stephen A video where he was saying 5 things about hockey or whatever. You know, it's a funny video for sure, but I saw 2 takes from it. Basically, one saying any publicity is good publicity for the NHL right now, which is certainly one way to look at it. And then the other was kind of saying like, we don't want people like kind of making a mockery of the game and like making it like, oh, we don't know anything besides like fighting and like all that, like just the typical, like stereotypical stuff at least. So I don't know. I maybe fall somewhere in between all of that. I definitely want to see it taken seriously. And like Nick, you mentioned, I don't want to see it just brushed over. Like they get their 2 minutes done on the, you know, timer for the day. And then they're like, okay, and now on to football and basketball for the rest of the day. So, you know, we won't know until we really see how they treat it on the air for a season, but it's exciting in some ways. And I'm looking forward to seeing how it pans out.
Yeah. And I think the first thing that comes to every diehard hockey fan's mind is, okay, who's broadcasting? Because we all know who we want. And it's like, I haven't seen any other like names being thrown out there. All I've seen is people go, Gary Thorne. I want Gary Thorne. We want him.
Give me Gary.
Yeah.
Well, he's a free agent right now, so it's a match made in heaven.
He did say he was open to it. So, you know, I think the best thing that ESPN could do for growing that audience or maintaining that audience is get him in the broadcast booth.
Right.
So
yeah, they actually had Ray Ferraro bits and pieces back in the day. I wouldn't mind seeing that again. I do think it's the right move. I mean, would you guys agree this is probably what's best to grow the game to a casual fan base?
Probably.
I say so. I would say so. I do think that NBC did have some good like pieces in there. Like we talked on the last episode about how we thought, you know, Keith Jones, Catherine Tappan, all those like, you know, those guys and gals. Yeah, they're great. So I don't know. I'd hate to not see them involved in it because I feel like I've just been like
indoctrinated.
Well, you gotta think they're gonna
coming in hot with the words today.
You gotta think they're gonna pull some people though, like from there. I don't think it'll be like a total like entire new lineup cover in the game.
Yeah.
So it'll just be a matter of who decides they want to make the move over with the NHL and who wants to stay with NBC or whatever they're going to be moving on to with Peacock and all that. But
yeah,
with any luck, we get more Butchie Gross action.
Yep.
You know, I think Steve Levy was involved in hockey.
He was.
So there's that. Barry Melrose, love him, hate him. I'm kind of back and forth every now and then, but he's still on SportsCenter somehow, some way.
Babcock can go fuck himself.
Yeah. My last thought on this is, and I was saying this to my buddies, you know, we were talking about, there's some graphic on Instagram about like, you know, the amount of sports attention that's being had right now. And DIHL was, I think last or second to last. I can't remember. They weren't far behind baseball, which I think is a step in the right direction. But I heard this on Chicklets this morning when I was listening to it. And I think it really does put things into perspective. In 2005, the NHL was on the Outdoor Lifetime Network, on OLN. And the contract with NBC when they originally signed it in 2010, 11, right after they switched off of Versus, for $200 million. And they're about to go onto a $600 million deal. So I would say that things are trending in the right direction. We definitely have, you know, it's a niche kind of sport, I guess, is what people call it. I don't really see it like that. I think you have to learn it, just like anything else that you watch. So I think the league's going in the right direction. And I think the fact that the two best players in the league both play in Canada, you have to somehow get that like barrier of literally the border, the barrier, like broken. You got to get people hip with the Canadian market.
It is true that some people just like can't compute the fact that there's like Canadian teams in it. Like I'll have a friend be like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Watching hockey." And he's like, "Who's playing?" And I'm like, "Montreal and Toronto or something." And he's like, immediately he's kind of like, "That's neither here nor there." Like he can't even really like understand that, which I get. It's weird because we think of like the Canadian Football League and shit, like irrelevant shit like that.
Yeah.
Once you like kind of understand the NHL, you realize it's all one piece. It's not like these Canadian teams are like othered or, you know.
And I think that this is something that the Olympics could really help because, you said, the two best players in the world are playing in Canada right now, but one of them's American. And get that guy, everyone watches the Olympics. You're going to get more people watching the Olympics than you are probably just a random ass hockey game. So, get NHL players for Team USA out there. And I think that would, bring a lot of attention in. It's like, oh, hey, this guy's American. He, knock on wood, he won a gold medal at the next Olympics and he's on my, local area hockey team. Maybe I'll start to pay attention. So who knows?
Yeah. And he's arguably the most marketable guy. He just had a music video made after him by Justin Bieber.
Yeah, so seriously.
I would say that he's probably the best face that you got, and it's a good one to have. He's got good personality. He's kind of, he's hip with things, as the kids would say. So,
as the youths would say.
Yes. So those are my thoughts on the ESPN deal.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's move on.
Evgeny Malkin became the 18th fastest player in NHL history to reach 1,100 points. He did it in 935 games played. That's pretty impressive.
Not bad. Still didn't make NHL top 100, but I'm not mad about that.
Yeah,
not at all. He's looked good in the last week or two. He's getting it together a little bit.
Yeah,
he's catching fire. The Pens look very good, but I'll get into that later.
Yeah, that whole top three in the East right now is
dogfight.
Yeah.
I have a lot of thoughts on that, but we'll get into that when we get into the market report.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Some very sad news. This sort of just came out over the wire a couple days ago for us here, but 19-year-old defenseman Timur Faizutinov was playing for Dynamo St. Petersburg's junior team in a playoff game on Friday, and he was struck by a puck in the face off of a dump in the neutral zone. He was rushed to the hospital and ultimately passed away. I believe it was either late last night or early this morning after 3 days of, doctors basically fighting for this kid's life. Completely unintentional, such a freak accident. I don't know if you guys have seen the video. If you're not loving seeing people get like graphically injured, I do not recommend watching it, but this is just so sad. And it's just one of these things in the hockey world where you do see the best in people, because a ton of people have sort of come together to show their support, and the entire community really. And it's just so sad that something like this could happen.
Yeah, it made me immediately think back to like the early 2000s. There was like a freak accident where a fan actually got struck by a puck in the stands. I think it was a Columbus versus Calgary game or something like that in like 2002. And she also passed away from, I think she was only like 13 or something like that. But it literally just goes to show that like puck injuries are super serious, especially when they're to the face and like such an unprotected, vulnerable area like that. And, you see guys get hit with the stick or with the puck or with the skate. It's all bad, but like there's something about that puck when it's just going that fast that it just can mess you up big time.
Especially the way that these sticks can launch these things now.
Yeah.
These things are basically slingshots for it. So obviously wish the best for him and his family, and obviously for the, the player involved, no malicious intent whatsoever. So I'm sure he's going through a very rough time right now.
I can't even imagine. Yeah. Incredibly sad incident.
Yeah.
Our thoughts and prayers over there.
For sure. The Sabres have lost 11 straight games in a row. Their most recent coming at the hands of your Washington Capitals, providing them with a 6-0 curb stomping. And I think that's ugly. I think that's being modest. The Devils have lost 11 straight at home. These two teams play each other in Jersey tonight on the 16th. Who wins the toilet bowl?
I'm gonna go Buffalo. I feel like 11 in a row is worse than 11 in a row at home. I think just gotta be like, all right, we gotta get one. I'm gonna go with Buffalo. Let's see Eric Stahl do something. Let's have like a prime time Eric Stahl game. That would be nice.
I am also rooting for that to happen. However, if they don't win this game against New Jersey, they play the Bruins twice in a row next. And after that, it's the Rangers and then the Penguins twice in a row and the Bruins and the Flyers. This is where it needs to end right here against the Devils for them, because suddenly they're right back into the thick of it with some of the top teams in the division. This is their chance to put that streak behind them and at least, separate it from maybe a new losing streak that's about to start, but
they just they need to. They need to do it tonight because they're just going to be rinse cycled, like just being tumbled over and over again if they don't.
I literally was thinking, how the Caps first season, they set a record for like least amount of wins or something like that. It was literally they won like 7 games all season, something like that. And you never see shit like that anymore because it's like, teams aren't that bad anymore.
And the NHL changed the rules to help Vegas get to the cup final in their first year. Yeah,
exactly. Right. But anyway, my point is I was thinking about the Sabres record recently and how this is kind of a weird season with the division and everything. And this could be a year where they win 10 games or something like that. I'm serious. They could actually somehow win 10 or 15 games and that's it all season.
So who you got winning? You said over the weekend you wanted to predict when the Sabres would get.
I know. I really want to.
They aren't going to beat Boston. I can tell that. Boston's fighting for their lives right now.
I know. And I don't think they're going to beat the Devils tonight. Mackenzie Blackwood's probably in net. And I think it's Jonas Johansson. Because here's the thing. Carter Hutton played against the Caps. And he actually looked really good, especially in the first period. And it didn't matter. That's how bad it is for them. He played really well. And it didn't fucking matter at all. They still lost 6-0. And they couldn't put the backup in because they play the next night tonight, which is Jonas Johansson's turn or whatever, because Allmark is still out. So
you're both on Jersey and I'm on Buff.
I'm saying Jersey wins tonight. Yep.
All right, I like being the oddball. It's all right.
Yeah. I want Buffalo, but
same. Darlene, I don't know if you guys have seen Mike Commodore. He does the worst plus minus list and he makes it look like a golf scoreboard. He makes it look like the Masters. And the top 7 are Buffalo Sabres and Rasmus Dahlin is leading that with a -27. I think I feel so bad.
I think they also have the least amount of goals for in the league or something like that. They just can't get the offense going. Nobody can get going.
You want to hear
Victor Olsen and Reinhart have looked okay, but that's about it.
This is nuts. Listen to this. If every Sabres goal was worth 2 instead of 1,
oh no,
Buffalo would still be 5 games under 500 in their last 17 games.
Holy shit.
That's bad. Yeah, that's not great.
That's nuts. That's what I'm saying. They're going to set some records for stink this year.
Yeah. And a lot of people had this team making the playoffs.
People had them at least fighting it out for a 5th or 4th spot around that area. They're not going to come close.
I just feel bad for them. What does that city have to do to have a successful sports team? I know the Bills are better now, but
that's the toughest.
They still lost 4 Super Bowls in a row, though.
Well, that's the toughest thing about it, though, is it's not not to pick on Arizona, but we were talking about them recently, possible relocation. But with the Sabres, this is one of the most diehard hockey fan bases in the league. You can't just up and move them, and there's nothing you can do but just try to get better. But how do you tell a franchise of diehard fans, hey, you know how we decided to rebuild 3 years ago? Well, now we're going to start over and do it again and trade Eichel and all the play. They haven't made the playoffs in 9 years. What do you do as a Sabres fan at this point?
They can't move that team because then how are Leaf fans going to go to Leaf games? It's not like they can afford to do it in their own arena.
Oh, no. No, they'll never move the Sabres.
No, they will never move the Sabres. They just got to fix it. Go back to the Buffalo head, black, red, and white. Boom,
exactly.
Problem solved. I promise.
Black, red, and white, and get a player like Patrick Kane, who
there you go.
Are transitioning to talk about right now anyway.
So Patty Kane finally cracked the top 5 all time in scoring among American born players. I think we sort of knew this was going to happen. It was just a question of when. Hands down, I think at this point, we can all say that this guy is the greatest American player as of right now to have played the game of hockey. While that's probably not going to last very long, because I think number 34 is probably going to jump over him at some point down the road. I'm comfortable with saying that now. And certainly the most talented. So just great to see him continuing to climb that ladder. I know he had a big milestone about 2 weeks ago. So great to see him sort of have this monster season when a lot of people sort of were starting to write him off.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we said it when he played his 1000th game. For all three of us, probably the greatest American player of all time, and keeps climbing the record books. So congrats to him. He's also looked incredible this season. Yeah, I think if the Blackhawks get in, he should be right there in the Hart conversation.
Definitely. Artemi Panarin is back in the lineup after that whole, political scandal fiasco for the Rangers, and scores in his first game back. So he has clearly not missed a beat. And I think he had like points on like all three of their goals or something that night.
Yeah, so, six Selly too, dude. He gets fired up. I like it.
He's not wasting time.
I think he's a great player to watch in the league. Similar to Matthews, he's just a really exciting player to watch. He's good for the league, like you said, and I'm just glad to see him back in the lineup. I mean, I know I don't want the Rangers to win the games. They're in our division, but he's a hell of a player. Got a lot of respect for him.
Definitely. Keith Yandel played in his 1000th career game and keeps his Ironman streak alive after we had this whole thing with Florida potentially scratching him. So, Salk. His
go ahead.
His teammates got him that sick golf cart. Did you see that?
Fucking unreal.
I did see that.
Things like nicer than my car.
He got 2 Rolexes.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And it has a backup camera, the golf cart. And it can go 30 miles an hour.
Why do you need a backup camera for a golf cart?
That's just extra.
That's
right.
Sick though. Tell me though, why the whole Panthers front office right now, like the fact that they were just like honoring him and celebrating him, they literally may as well just like paint clown faces on themselves at this point. Like they're just so like, literally not even 2 months ago, they were like, Yandel is not in our plans for this season or whatever. And now they're just like,
they're first place in the league. And
we
we're
have
halfway
this
through
guy
the year.
and he's our favorite. It's like, dude, you guys look like clowns right now, but congrats to Yandel. He's a hell of a player.
Yeah, good for him. And I'm sure Biz is happy they're not still teammates, because I don't think he would have wanted to chip in for that golf cart and 2 Rolexes. So that could have gotten pricey.
Let me just repeat what I said, by the way, in case you guys didn't hear it. They're first in the league in standings halfway through the year. Who had that coming? So nobody.
Yeah, I think this is a lot of untapped potential exploding for this team. So I'm happy for them. I want to see a monster playoff series between them and Tampa.
That'd be
and
sick.
I think that's got to be one of the next big rivalries
Florida
in the NHL.
matchup. That would be so sick.
Yeah, interstate, everyone has sort of like written off the Panthers. If you're a hockey fan down there, you're like, I'm going to go with the Bolts because they're a real team, whereas this other one really isn't. And now we're starting to see like a level playing field, and I'm all for that.
Well, am I correct that the Panthers are like pretty much based out of Miami? Is it like right around there?
It's like 40 minutes. It's like 40 minutes outside of there.
It's like Sunrise, right?
That's right. So
Cool.
that's
Cool
really
arena.
cool. Honestly, that'd be a sick like little Subway series, quote unquote.
Yeah, absolutely. Ovi scored the other night. He was one of 6 Capitals to score in Buffalo in that 6-0 curb stomping. And he tied Phil Esposito for 6th all-time in goals at 717. So up next is Marcel Dion, arguably the greatest player to play to never win a Stanley Cup, at 731. After him, Brett Hull in 4th at 741. Those are really the 2 that could realistically be hit this season, I think. And I think Brett Hull's probably a little bit too far out of reach to be hit this season, but those are the next 2 big names on the radar. And if you want an update on the biggest name on the radar, he's got 177 to go to tie number 99.
Over under this segment lasts 5.5 minutes. I'm hammering the over. And
That's all I have to say.
And I won't even talk.
That's all I have to say.
No, I'll leave it at that pretty much too. I just I think he will get Marcel this year. I I don't know if we'll get Brett. It's what I can't do math that well, but that's 14 more to get Marcel and 24 more to get Hull.
Yes.
He could score 25 this year, I guess. He would really have to blow up. He hasn't been scoring as often as he usually does this season. And I feel like a big part of that is he really feeds off the fans and stuff like that.
For sure.
That's kind of why I feel like he slowed down a bit.
There's what, like 26 or 7 games left in the year?
I think so.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
So
it's
possible,
doable.
but he'd have to blow up to get.
If anyone can do it, it's him. I mean,
true.
He can just go on a tear at any time.
It's so true.
Speaking of going on a tear, Kirill the Thrill notched his first career hat trick this past week against the Yotes and is basically making the Wild a fun hockey team to watch. I've been fortunate enough to, catch a couple of these games as I've been up late, falling asleep, whatever. This kid's unbelievable. This kid will win the Calder Trophy this year. I don't think we can say anyone else has a chance right now if he continues on the pace that he's at. And they're a dangerous team.
They're second in their division, and he also legitimately looks like a 15-year-old going to algebra class. So
seriously,
I don't know how he's doing it, but Kaprizov is just nasty. They have been wearing the reverse retros. It feels like every night.
Yeah. The Subway uniforms.
Yeah.
I actually don't like them that much. I thought that they were cool when they released them, but seeing them in action, they do look a little weird. Like I kind
of the Sprite commercials or something.
I
like them though.
The yellow is like a little off-putting for some reason, but
fair enough.
Anyway, they are fun to watch, and Kaapo Kakkonen has been really exciting to watch too.
I hope they make the playoffs so I can pick them again.
And so we can hit our boy Denny up.
Right, and shove it up Denny's hoop.
Go Nucks.
Yeah.
Right, Denny? Go Nucks.
Go Nucks.
Kaapo Kakkonen is also in the running for Calder. Fun fact. So, he's the goalie right now for the Minnesota Wild. He's 11-4 so far this season and has won his last 8 in a row. He is
so absolutely impressive.
He is buzzing. He's starting tonight against the Arizona Coyotes, but we don't care. We're on the Coyotes tonight. Publish that pick. We'll see what happens. I like them to bounce back. You gotta get a little underdog bet every now and then,
Pun intended.
Yes.
With the NHL trade deadline approaching, that is April 12th. Mark your calendars. Comes earlier or later this year. Later.
Beats me, dude.
Mattias Ekholm is largely understood to be the player most likely to be moved. And everyone's got lists. You can go on Instagram in your Discover page, or basically go into our followers page on Instagram and go to any, NHL discussion, Puck Empire, whatever you want to pull. They've got lists, and he's at the top of all of them. So
Mattias Ekholm missed some time to start the season, and if you look at his stats, you wouldn't be able to tell because he has made up for lost time. He's been a machine. He looks like he's trying to play to get picked up by somebody who could maybe contend. This guy looks like he wants to play for a team that actually, can contend night in, night out. So I'd be excited to see him go somewhere. He's been on my fantasy team and doing me wonders. So I'd be excited to see him play for, I don't know. What do you guys think is a good fit for somebody like him?
Chicago.
I've heard that.
They're on the edge. They're sort of on the outside looking in, fourth in that division right now.
I mean, he's a good two-way defender with a big offensive upside, but
St. Louis.
He's a big guy too, isn't he?
Winnipeg.
I could see.
He is a big guy, and he was. I mean, I got to know him very well in that 2017 finals. He's a beast. I think St. Louis, for some reason, makes sense to me. They've been trying to move Vince Dunn, so maybe that's something that works. Some other names on that top 10 list that are worth noting: Ricard Raquel, or is it Richard Raquel? Am I right? Ricard on Anaheim. Taylor Hall, obviously, that's the 1-year deal. Let's see what goes down there. Eric Stahl, 1-year deal. Let's see what goes down there. Heard Clayton Keller's name a little bit. I don't know how accurate that would be, but it's going to be interesting. April 12th will be here before you know it.
Seriously.
Big time.
Just some injuries to get to. Anders Lee, the Islanders captain, is going to be out for the regular season with a lower body injury. That's cap hit is not going to count towards them, and he can come back for the playoffs and it still won't count. So keep that in mind. Opens up a lot of room for that team to be active at the deadline. So
yeah,
that's scary. And
not what you want to hear if you're a non-Islanders Metro fan. So
I feel like they're going to be one of those teams that goes for the big forward like Halsey. They just strike me as that type.
Yeah.
I could see them getting Hall. I could
Yeah.
see him like suddenly, like they're totally the team that grabs that guy and then he scores like a buttload of goals for them.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, fuck, we couldn't have done that.
Eichel is going to, woes in Buffalo are just, this is just like continuing by the week. I feel bad, but he's out longer than I think people had originally expected. Of course, it's the NHL. We have no idea what that means. I have not seen any timetable. I have not seen any details. So he's just going to be out for a while.
Best thing to happen to the Sabres organization this season is that we interviewed Rob Ray.
Yeah.
Just
hands down.
Putting it bluntly.
And then Nico Hischier is going to be out 3 weeks with a frontal sinus fracture.
That sounds fucking painful.
That sounds horrible. I get sinus headaches all the time, and that's got to be terrible.
Yeah, it's not a good one.
Yeah.
That wraps it up for news and injuries. We are going to now transition to the interview with Patrick Dempsey. But before we do, we want you to know that this interview is brought to you by Brackish Life. If you're like us and grew up on the water and outdoors, then Brackish Life is perfect for you. They have a wide selection of gear from UV shirts to hoodies and hats. It's Real Bay apparel made by Real Bay people. Head to www.brackish.life today to check them out. A little salty, a little fresh, Brackish Life. Brackish Life has also teamed up with Rink to Reef Chesapeake Bay to preserve the area many of us call home. Rink to Reef repurposes broken hockey sticks into oyster restoration habitats. Brackish Life donates a portion of their proceeds to Rink to Reef to further preserve the beautiful Chesapeake Bay area. Support this great cause by checking out www.brackish.life. Today, we're going to toss it off to Patrick Dempsey right now.
All right, everyone. This is really, really cool for us. I know I'm personally very excited about this. It's now our privilege to welcome on one of the stars of my favorite movies of all time. He played Mike Eruzione in the film Miracle. Please welcome Patrick O'Brien Demsey. Pat, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
What's up, fellas?
So just like we do with like a lot of our guests, you obviously you grew up in Massachusetts. Tell us a little bit about where you grew up and, how you got started, loving, appreciating, and ultimately playing the game of hockey itself.
So I grew up on the North Shore of Boston in a little town called Danvers. And my family's owned the property for quite a while. I mean, several generations. I think the fourth generation is in the house now.
Wow.
And there's on the property is a 12-acre property and there's a pond. And so 4 generations have now skated on the same pond in my family. So that's where I learned to skate. And that's where I fell in love with the game.
That's so cool. I think the pond thing was definitely something that we didn't get to experience. It was more of like the driveway, since it never, froze over for more than a day. So, and to have it in your backyard, that must have been incredible. What was the youth hockey scene like when you were growing up there?
So it was Danvers Youth Hockey had a really good program, and I started, the as a mite, there's a learn to skate program and all that, and they always have had a great program. So and then it fed right into our high school, Danvers High School, which when I was a freshman, we won the state tournament, Division II state tournament in Massachusetts, and then made it to the finals again my junior year, but we didn't win. So we always had a really good program.
Wow.
You say you're from Boston. I don't sense too much of an accent. I was expecting when you said North Shore, I'd get a Shaw or something like that, but you did pretty good.
Well, I moved to Los Angeles 18 years ago, and they were like, "Oh, you want to be an actor, right?" I go, "Yeah, an actor." They go, "Well, lose that speech impediment, kid."
What's guys? Help me out. What's the commercial with John Krasinski or whatever his name is from The Office where they do the self?
Smart Park.
Yeah.
Smart Park. It doesn't take long for me to get it back. My wife says, I get out off the plane in Logan Airport in Boston, and at the airport, it's already back. So, yeah, it's always in the back. I'll tell you the hardest words I have that to say without a bother, like my brain goes like the gears are grinding when I try to say Arnold Palmer.
Oh,
okay.
that's a tough
Just
one.
want to say, Arnold Palmer.
It brings out all the weakness. Yeah,
Yeah.
I hear you. That's funny.
Yeah.
How did you get into acting? I'm curious. Obviously you're from Boston. You talked about you had the pond, and then you played youth hockey, and you played decently competitively. So how did you kind of transfer that into acting?
All right. So I was going to college for graphic design. I have a degree in graphic design and a minor in the fine arts. So I was always doing creative things. And I was doing my internship, and I was sitting behind a computer doing like corporate identities, logo design. And I realized I had way too much energy to be sitting behind a computer. I was literally like shaking all day, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll go to acting school when I finish college, which seemed like a perfectly reasonable idea at the time. And so I just started slacking off one day at work. It was October 16th of 2002. And I was like clicking away, like, let me look for acting schools, right? And within a couple hours, I found an open casting call for hockey players that could act. And they were casting, I think, 7 cities in North America and Canada. And the auditions ended within 24 hours the next day in Boston. And so I just sent an email and said, hey, I'd love to come audition. And they were like, sure. So then I had to, go to my boss and say, hey, I've got, for my internship, I've got an audition tomorrow in Boston. Can I go? And she was like, yeah, go ahead,
Right. Yeah.
Like, and if she had never allowed me to go, I'd never even thought that she wouldn't, it was like, but I can't, man, it's crazy, right?
Yeah, no, that's insane. So what were the auditions like? I mean, what did they kind of ask you to do in order to qualify?
So the first audition consisted of me sweating bullets, quiver lipping, and forgetting all my lines. It was atrocious. It was awful. I was so nervous. I had no idea what I was doing. I can't remember the hotel, but it was in Boston. I took the train in, and there was a bar in the lobby, and I went down and I like chugged 2 like neat whiskeys immediately.
Attaboy.
Like I came out and I was like physically shaking and sweating, and I was like, oh my God. And I remember just downing 2 drinks and getting on the train and going home. But I auditioned in Boston that day. And then a month later, they called me back and said, we're going to have an on-ice audition in outside of Boston. And I went there, and there was tons of guys. Funny, the person that I sat next to in the locker room, there's hundreds of guys there, was Mike Eruzione, who played Jack O'Callahan. We somehow sat next to each other in the locker room on that audition, and that's like the first time I met him. So we auditioned there. Then I think it's funny. It's so long. It's like 18 years ago now or 19 years ago that all of this started happening. So it was like, I think I auditioned about 6 or 7 times in Boston. I mean, I kept going back in to read, and I was terrible probably every time. And then they said, hey, we're going to fly you to Los Angeles. And, there's like a whole weekend camp. We're flying in 40 hockey players. And then we have 40 actors from LA that are going to do it like a hockey camp / audition for the whole weekend. So I got there and we played hockey, and they could tell we could play. And they could tell we couldn't act. And so they set me up to really help me try to get the role. I mean, everyone was going to bat for me. I thought it was just like a normal part of the process. But after, seeing how the business works, the fact that they paid for someone to coach me, to help me to be able to do it, they were really behind me.
So what was the ice audition part of that? Like, I'm assuming, like, in my head, that just is like a hockey training camp anyways. I mean, you get that many hockey players together, we all know what's going to happen.
Yeah, it was great. It was they ran a bunch of drills, and they had all the producers and everybody up there with clipboards and everything looking, taking notes. They knew I looked a lot like Eruzione. It's funny. And so, they knew who they were looking for which parts, and they would just check the boxes. Can they skate? Did they look natural? And then, so we did a bunch of drills, and then we did a scrimmage. And it was, just so they could see it in a game format or game situation.
I think it's kind of funny that the way they decided to go about this was they figure, okay, it's easier to teach skaters how to act than it is to teach actors how to skate. Do you think that that's accurate? I mean, being someone who knows how to act and skate, what was harder for you to pick up?
Well, it's funny. I really wasn't one of the best hockey players. I mean, I pretty much was a fourth line grinder in a Division III college, right? And we had Division I athletes. We had guys that played in the AHL. We had guys that played in the NHL. I mean, it was like a high caliber, and I was very close to the bottom of it. So a lot of the guys that were involved, they had creative interests. So it wasn't that much of a stretch. You know what I mean? They had a certain ability that the director, Gavin O'Connor, he was looking for a certain, he could find the guys that he said, I can work with this. They have the ability to do what I need. I've got to massage it a little bit. And his vision too was that for the audience to really buy this movie, they couldn't recognize any of us. If it was, I heard that Fred Savage was up for Mike Eruzione, right? So I don't know if this is true, but this is, I heard it. I remember hearing it after, but could you imagine watching that movie and seeing Fred Savage? You wouldn't be able to disconnect from him enough to enjoy the moment. I don't think. So Gavin's vision was that, I really want to find either pretty much unknown actors or hockey players that will be able to pull this off. And he had a combination of the two.
So do you remember I'm gonna butcher what the technical term is here, but when you got called to basically be on the crew and the steps that happened after that, like where you guys filmed, how long a day you would film, just that whole process of, all right, I got the role, now we're rocking and rolling.
It's so bizarre that from the beginning, and this just could have been just how naive I was. From the moment I found out about this, I thought this is going to happen. I really never stressed out about it, which is, knowing what I know about the business now is insane. But it just felt, and it just felt like it was going to happen. So I remember, so they flew us to Los Angeles to do the training camp. And Disney, I guess they weren't convinced that I was going to be able to do this. So a week later, they flew me back again by myself, set me up with an acting coach. And I remember I was, auditioning, and I was in Larchmont Village, sitting on the side on a stone wall inside, just outside of the Finn Hiller casting office. And they came outside after I had auditioned inside. I was just sort of sitting there waiting, and they said, "You got it." And I was like, "All right, cool. When do we leave?" And they were like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah. When do we?" It really wasn't like this, because I didn't even know what I was getting into. Do you know what I mean? I didn't know anything about filmmaking. I didn't know anything about acting. I knew about the story, but who knows? There's plenty of crappy movies that are made. I didn't realize at the time that I was getting into something that was going to be really special.
What was that transition like? You said yourself, like, you had no idea what you're getting yourself into. And then, I'm assuming, boom, then you're on set. And what's like what was a typical day like? That's got to be a pretty big culture shock.
Yeah. I mean, I went basically right from college. And a month after I finished in December of 2002. And, the first week of February, I was flying to Vancouver, British Columbia, to shoot the movie. So we did it like a month-long training camp beforehand. We did like 8 hours on ice a day, rehearsing everything. And then we would do like a 3 to 4 hour acting class at night as a group with a coach to sort of get us all ready. And I remember the first scene we shot, it was the scene we were outside of the bus confronting Coach Brooks about bringing in this guy, Tim Hart. And we hadn't really met Kurt. He said hello to us, but he stayed away from us from the most part because, again, Gavin, the director, wanted us to be intimidated by him when he approached us. It was a strategic maneuver for that first scene. And I remember, like, I didn't hear it, but I heard of it, a collective sigh of relief when they realized, oh my gosh, this kid can act.
We got one.
Yeah, they were like, all right, this is happening, because it was we shot all night long out in Rossland, British Columbia, which was where the scenes that were taking place, the exteriors for Lake Placid was in Rossland, British Columbia, and we were shooting all night. Freezing outside, right? And I'll never forget this. At about 4:30 in the morning, Kurt Russell turns and looks at us and goes, "Well, boys, Hollywood ain't all cocaine and sunglasses now, is it?"
That's awesome.
Absolutely classic.
What was it like to work with him?
He's incredible. Just an unbelievable professional. He came to work every day, prepared, no crap out of him. He was there to execute Gavin's vision and, brought his own ideas, but didn't argue with what he wanted. And it was just a great guy to learn from on our first project.
What was, in your opinion, your best scene or favorite scene in the movie that, like, when you were going through the scene, people might not realize how much fun you were having, or some goofy, like, blooper that happened prior? Is there any scene that stands out to you?
The best scene. So there's a scene where Ralph Cox gets cut. Right. So Coach Patrick comes in to the locker room, says, "Coxie, Coach wants to talk to you." And Kenny Mitchell is one of my dearest friends who played Ralph Cox, and he was an actor. He was one of the guys who was an actor beforehand, a tremendous actor. And I was really just learning, and he was so good that I was crying for about 6 hours that day, because and there's a shot that goes from him sitting there and it cuts back to me looking at him. And like, it was such a great day for me to feel like as an actor who was learning that I had that ability to do that. So it's probably something completely different from what you thought I might say. But it was for me, I was like, I'm good at this. I can do this. That was a cool moment for me within the movie to say, this is something for me that I really like and that I'm good at.
That's awesome. Super cool to hear. I'm also curious, was it weird at all having to use equipment that wasn't like up to date? Like, because obviously like the wooden sticks and everything are out of the 80s, but it's 2003. Was that kind of weird at all for you guys, or you didn't really think about it much?
So, I mean, I really had used wooden sticks through college. I mean, I finished playing I didn't play my senior year because I wanted to finish up school and get out of there. And there was no hope for me to play hockey. I wasn't looking for that, nor was I good enough to. So I don't think I never had a composite stick. I think I finished playing in 2001. So, I mean, were they terrible? Yeah, because at least the wooden ones I had like some sort of laminate that made them a little bit stiffer. These things were like tree branches. The skates were, I think they were Bauer 1000s that were painted brown, like the leathers were painted brown to look old. So they weren't really that old. And that's about it. I mean, the gloves with the long cuffs. So, yeah.
I know you just said his name earlier, and now it's escaping me. I think it's Mike, who played Jack O'Callahan, right? Am I right about that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think I speak for the three of us, and if I don't, I apologize. But that he's just so good at that role, and like the one-liners are so good. What was he like, working with on cast? I mean, I would imagine he's funny based on what I've seen from the movie.
He was, I don't know if you guys know, but he has passed. He's not with us anymore.
I didn't know that.
He took his own life 3 years ago. So, but I'll tell you, he was a wild one. He was so much fun, man. You wanted to get in, like you wanted to go out for a night. Were with Mikey. He was taking you out. It was like he was 125% in everything that he went into. So he was he worked as an actor a bit, but he had a family, so he had to support his family. He left the business, and talking about going balls to the wall, he became a Green Beret.
Wow.
Holy hell. Yeah.
Yeah. He went into special forces. I mean, this dude talk about an absolute legend.
For sure.
Right?
For sure.
Most handsome dude I've ever seen in my life. Movie star, Green Beret. It's like, are you kidding me?
Right.
Yeah.
He played Division I at University of Maine too.
Wow.
He was an unbelievable hockey player. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
What was the I guess, like, with all these hockey players that are now acting together, it was the set just like the locker room basically? Like, I mean, were you guys just like,
yeah,
were they just like trying desperately to keep a handle on you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it was like the wardrobe ladies were like, it's like having 24 puppies around. You guys are just all over. I mean, we were all between 18 and I think the oldest one was 27, but I would say the average age was probably 22 or 23 among us, and none of us had any money, and all of a sudden you're making good money. You're living in a foreign city. You're all in a hotel together. So one of the wardrobe guys, he was also the wardrobe guy on Slapshot.
Okay.
And he said, there's only one movie I've been on that was a bigger shit show than this one. And I'll give you one guess what that was.
Oh, that is too good. What, like, obviously I'm assuming that they had people there that were, sort of making sure that the story stayed accurate. I'm assuming you got to meet a bunch of the guys from the team itself. What was that experience like? I know that, Buzz Schneider's kid, Billy, played his dad, which was pretty cool. But like, what was it like to actually meet some of the guys from that team?
So Eruzione is only from about like 15 miles away from where I grew up. We grew up really close to each other. So when I found out I got it, they said, "Oh, we're going to give you his phone number." So I got his phone number, and he was helping to coach his kid's high school team at the time. And I went down there and skated with them a bit and met him and just, got to know him a little bit, which is like, how cool is that?
So cool.
To begin
awesome.
with. Right. And then, because like I said, I had no idea what I was getting into. I didn't realize, what this would, how this would change my life. that was great. We had a great we had a great moment with Coach Brooks, and so everyone in my life calls me Patty. They have since I was a little kid. So we're the director Gavin O'Connor is like he's like, hey guys, come over. I got someone I want you to meet. Coach Brooks is here, and so we're like, oh my god, right? So we're all in. This is like when we're practicing. We have jerseys with no names on them. We all have cages on because if we got hit in the face with a puck, like the movie would be on hold. So he brings us over to the bench, and we're all on the ice, and Coach Brooks is on the bench, and Coach Brooks is like, hey, how are you guys doing? And everybody was just kind of nervous and quiet. And I was like, we're a little bit rusty, right? So he looks at me, he goes, you must be Eruzione. He was always a little bit rusty, right? So
that's cool.
So like clearly knew, So later I go out to him like, hey coach, I'm Patty Dempsey, and he shook my hand. He's like, I know who you are, Patty. And I was like, and that was like a moment where I was like, oh man, what's going on here?
That's so cool.
So we've kind of focused a lot about the American side of the movie, but obviously the big climax of the story is when you play Russia, USSR formerly. So what were the actors on that side like? Because when you watch the movie, they clearly look like they have, European descent. There's language barriers and stuff. They have the accents. So what was working with them like? Were they actually like authentically Russian?
Awesome guys.
Yeah.
They were awesome. It was so fun that Sasha Lakovic played, the captain. Who's that? Mikhailov from is that who it is?
Sounds right. We'll roll with it.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, that might be the coach. I'm drawing a blank. How am I doing this? Anyways, so Sasha Lakovic,
you got it right.
Played, I believe he played in the NHL, I believe, but he played in minor leagues, and his nickname was the Pitbull, if that gives you any idea. So you can go hit YouTube and watch some Sasha the Pitbull Lakovic fights. What an animal.
Really?
That guy was unbelievable. Yeah, he was perfect for it. He just had that face, but they were great guys. A lot of them played in the NHL, a lot of them played in the AHL in juniors, and they were all really talented players. And it was funny. So the casting, if you look at it, a lot of those guys are massive, and they did that for a reason too, to show it as a David and Goliath. When we're on the ice with them, they wanted them to be physically a lot bigger than we were. So yeah, great guys. It's so funny. We have tons of pictures from behind the scenes. We're all on the ice hanging out together. We're in the locker room hanging out together. We're at a bar in Vancouver hanging out together. It was really fun.
What was harder to shoot for you? Was it like acting scenes that were on the ice or stuff that was off the ice?
Honestly, I think for me, what was harder was stuff on the ice. And I'm not saying that because I was a great actor, but it was like a much more level playing field for me as a newbie actor with everybody else who was pretty much a newbie actor. And when we got on the ice, I had some like pivotal things that I had to get done that just not having the skill level that a lot of the guys had, I got a lot more stressed out about them than I did any of the acting scenes.
I kind of want to shift away from the movie for a second. So do you keep up to date with the league now? I mean, are you a Bruins fan, or do you stay in touch with the game?
So I'm a Bruins fan. I've lived in Los Angeles for 18 years, so I pay attention to the Kings, but I truly have no idea what's going on this season because I've been working in Georgia since August. Mm-hmm. And when you do 75 to 80 hour weeks for 6 months, everything else in the world just seems to fade away.
Yeah. Are you able to touch on what you're working on, or is that like top secret at the moment?
Yeah, no, I can tell you about it. So I mainly I do acting work when it comes up, but I work as a sculptor, movie business. Oh. Whatever they need sculpted, I can make it. I just finished in the fall. I did here a movie called Red Notice that's coming to Netflix with The Rock, and we sculpted a whole bunch of things. Amongst that was 4 14-foot pharaohs, like replicas of these pharaoh statues. Right now, I'm actually working on another movie with The Rock. It seems everything I work on now has The Rock in it because it's all, underground tombs and adventure things, and it's like action adventure. So I'm working on Black Adam right now, which is a new DC movie starring The Rock.
Nice. This is completely unrelated, but I actually just learned like a week ago he's like the richest actor in the world.
He's the biggest movie star in the world. Yeah. Yeah.
It was big. I just didn't realize it was to that magnitude. So
that crazy. Yeah. So it's, that's what I mean. It seems like everything I've worked on in the last few years is because of The Rock, which thank you, Rock.
Do you have a favorite actor or actress that you kind of strive to be like, or that you looked up to when you were younger?
As someone who was never even paid attention to it, I really didn't as a kid, but as someone who has learned the craft of acting, I love Paul Newman, always, since I began, and probably because of Slapshot.
It's hard not to like him. I mean, the guy's a legend.
Can I give you a story about Slapshot?
Yes.
Oh, for sure.
Yes.
So I did for many years. So before I got into sculpting, as I was building my career as a sculptor, was in between jobs, I would renovate homes, right? So I was building homes in the Hollywood Hills. I was working for a couple different contractors. And one day I'm with a friend of mine who's a contractor. We're tearing apart this deck and reframing a deck over a garage, right? And so this neighbor comes by and he's like, "Hey guys, what you up to?" Like totally talkative, outgoing neighbor who clearly has time on his hands, like pops in. And so I was like, all right, yeah. I'm like, we're just, we're going to frame this up and blah, blah. He's like, oh, cool. And he's super chatty. So, and I'm looking at him like, what's your name? He's like, Jerry. I was like, hey, Jerry. And I was like, Jerry, were you Dave Killer Carlson in Slapshot?
No way.
I'm not kidding you, right? And he's like, yeah, it was. Because most people will never because he's had a 40-some-year career, if not a 50-year career, Right. He's like, it's a true hockey fan who picks me out from, being Killer Carlson. Yeah.
Right.
That was like a great day for me.
That's incredible.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
I gotta put you on the spot. Favorite movie?
My favorite movie is Beautiful Girls.
Ooh, okay.
You ever seen it?
I have not. I'm so behind the times with movies. I'm not like a big like movie TV guy, but
I believe it was released in 96 or 97. It was an independent film directed by Ted Demme, who it was picked up and released by Miramax. Mm-hmm. And it's just like this great little indie movie about a guy from small town Massachusetts who goes home for his 10-year high school reunion and catches up with his buddies. And it's just like a small little indie film that I love.
What are your thoughts on Ted, the movie Ted? Is it funny to you or no?
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Okay,
It's funny to me because I left and I don't speak like that no more. Okay. So
I had to ask.
Oh, it's hilarious. Yeah.
The scene, and I think it's the second one, when they sneak into Brady's room to extract the specimen from him, and he picks up the bear and throws it like a football. It's all time.
Great, right?
Yeah. So I'm assuming that means you're a Pats fan then. So when Brady wins one in Tampa, what's the feeling there?
got to be happy for him. Right?
I respect it.
Yeah, it's like, how can, at this point, it's what, I can't say anything. Right?
Yeah, you can't.
I can't, if I was hating on that, you can't.
I feel that.
I don't think so.
Nick, you got any more questions?
So you earlier you referenced how when you were casting the movie, they didn't want the actors to be recognizable, to sort of add to the mystique of the film. If they were to cast this movie again, let's say they do it now, and they were going to use NHL players, who do you see currently playing in the league playing as Mike Eruzione?
What a question.
Oh my God. How about trying to think about who would this be?
The three of us came up with a list of like a couple people who we think would be good for the roles. So I'm interested to hear what you have to say.
Oh my gosh, I have no idea.
I said TJ Oshie.
He's a righty.
He is a righty. That's true.
He's also like an American hero because of that shootout. Right. So I feel like that kind of fits.
Zach Parise.
It's a good one.
I like that too. Nick, do you remember who we had him as in our list?
We had him as Neil Broughton, I think.
Okay.
Neil Broughton.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
I thought Torts would be great as Herb.
Yeah.
That's a shoo-in. That's just a given.
Yeah.
But Mac, do you have any last final questions?
I think the only other thing I was kind of curious about, I mean, this may not be a super great question, but I'm curious kind of what your thoughts about the 1980 U.S. Olympic hockey team was prior to being in the film. Obviously you're a hockey player, but we're only 2 years old when it happened. So it's not like you probably have a memory of watching it or anything, but was it something that, was already really special to you or kind of grew on you once you were in the movie? Talk a little bit about that if you could.
All right. So how old are you?
I'm 22.
You're 22. Okay. So for you, Miracle's 17 years old, right? So for you, you grew up with a movie that told you the story, right? I didn't have that. We knew of it happening. I had never seen the game. I don't know if you've watched the original game footage. It's horrible. It's terrible to watch. It's
the ice is like blue.
Right.
Yeah, it's blue. It's terrible. So I mean, I had heard about it from my dad just growing up in the area. You heard of the legend of the team, but a generation, younger than me, you guys, you grew up, being fed the story through a movie, which puts it into a whole other realm of legend.
Yeah, you're right.
It's been like, all of them have been, I didn't have that. I just had, the Miracle on Ice. You know? It was amazing. It was amazing. That's what we were told.
Right. And I think you kind of hit the hammer on the nail there, especially for people even younger than us now. That movie pretty much tells the whole story. People recite, funny quotes like, I'll take your test for you. Like that's infamous. Like it kind of like coincides, good word by me, with the movie. So I think you're very right.
Yeah, it's for me on this end of it. I've seen now an entire group of people who love this movie, who are now old enough to have children, right? The people that were younger than me who love this movie, who now have kids of their own. and are sharing the movie with their kids. So it's like, it's funny. It had like this core audience that we knew about. And it's just like, it seems like it's exponentially growing. And it, you know, my wife is an actress. She's been in the business for 25 years. And she's like, I've never had a project like that. She's been a working actress for 25 years. And she's like, she's like, you may never have something like that again. It's just so uncommon to have a film like that continues to grow, that people continually watch.
What was the reception, you know, sort of after it debuted and came out for you? Like, was it just sort of like, you know, night and day, like, you know, like your phone's blowing up, your email's blowing up, what have you?
Yeah. I mean, imagine this is, I think for me, it was my life, and I lived every day of it, you know? But for my family and friends, it was like, at times, like, are you kidding me? Like, what the hell is happening here? You know, it's like, my parents like went to a, you know, first class airfare to a Hollywood premiere.
Right.
Like, it was, you know, Muhammad Ali was there.
Yeah.
It was like, you know, like Wayne Gretzky, Muhammad Ali, like it was like, holy crap. Yeah, it was, you know, for me, it became my life. So it didn't really, I mean, I will be honest, it was when something like that happens, it's my entire life no longer existed the way I knew it. And along with that comes a massive amount of anxiety.
Sure.
And I'm not generally an anxious person. I'm like pretty mellow. It was like the stress level, because I was being asked to try to recreate my success already in auditions when I still didn't even know what I was doing. For me, you know, for a lot of us, it was like, and I'm friends with the casting directors at Disney, and they were like, we kind of knew it was a recipe for disaster for a lot of you guys. I mean, like I'll tell you, the 10 years after Miracle, I was like, man, I was as broke as anyone I've ever met. I mean, living in a crappy apartment in LA with cockroaches but you name it, like I couldn't buy a job, you know? And it was a really strange situation, because on one hand, you are a massive inspiration and a hero to a certain segment of the population, right? And I literally didn't even have a like 35 cents at points. You know what I mean? It was like it's like it really can mess with your head, the illusion of, you know, what it is to be a performer, or what it is to work in the movie business.
Sure, absolutely.
But and this isn't not looking for any pity. I wanted the adventure. I was like ready for the adventure, where it was going to throw at me. Like it was so cool to do all that and go through that and like fight through that and say, no, this is what I want to do. No matter what, this is what I'm going to do. This is not going to discourage me. None of this is going to make me go away. And I love that, because that's the spirit of Mike Eruzione. And it's like, and I go, that's why I was in there.
There you go.
Amen.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Yeah, that's a great story. I mean, I can speak for myself, but I wouldn't have guessed that. So, you know, it's good to see that you're back on. So,
yeah, great ride, and the story's just getting better.
There you go.
Part.
Amen. Well, we don't want to keep you too long. We know you're busy. But we really do appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. I think this is going to be huge for us, and our fan base is definitely going to be riled up for this one. So that'll be fun.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you. We really appreciate it. Big thanks to Patty for sitting down with us and talking to us. That one was so cool. Just the stories that he had and, talking about, working with Kurt Russell and, what it was like to be on set for all of that. And I feel like that had to be like the most fun movie set of all time. It was just so cool.
It sounds like guys being dudes, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the good stuff. And yeah, it was definitely cool to get, a different type of interview on this pod and hear kind of, the other side of things.
Definitely a little something different. I also, like you were saying, I liked when he was talking about how, they felt like they were getting babysat by like the set directors and stuff because it was just a bunch of guys love playing hockey and we're excited.
It was literally just a hockey team.
Exactly.
Yeah. And we have some gambling stuff to get to before we get into our March Madness talk. But before we do that, we just want to remind everyone that these picks and these gambling tips are brought to you by the Maryland Mortgage Wiz. Are you planning on buying your first home this year? Get pre-approved and explore all financing options with Dave Fritz, the Mortgage Wiz. Interest rates are at a historic low and down payment assistance programs are available. Stop renting and put your money in a place you can call home. Follow Dave on Instagram at Maryland_mortgage_wiz for more information. Dave is licensed in Maryland, Delaware, and Florida. Equal housing lender, NMLS number 3094.
You almost said Melloware.
I did.
That would have been pretty funny.
Yeah, that's like that beach area, Melloware.
Speaking of Dave, he's got a nice little roller hockey court right next to his brand new home that he just purchased. So congrats to him. Yeah, nice. We'll have to. Well, I won't leak where that is for his privacy concerns, but if he gives me consent, then that's going to be definitely one of the places we try to play over the summer.
We're not responsible for broken windows. I'm just going to put that out there.
Nah, Thompson Creek needs to sponsor us.
Thompson Creek. That was a good one.
Thank you.
All right, trends. What have you guys liked from this past week? Hit me.
I'll start. Panthers overs money. It doesn't fail. They had a couple good tilts this past week. They're putting up pretty much 4 to 6 goals a game in their last 5. So I would definitely keep an eye on that. And they just keep continuing to win. So maybe you could even put Panthers money line in there as well. Ottawa, Toronto. It's like investing in the most safe stock on earth, and it's going to cash out every single time. Anytime Ottawa plays Toronto, you bet the over. That's all you need to know. Matthews and Marner have torn them up their entire careers, but even this past week, Ottawa won the game and it still hit. So that is definitely my favorite go-to bet whenever I see it. The Minnesota puck line's also been good. They've hit it twice in a row against Arizona this week. Hoping that doesn't happen tonight because I did publish on our social that I have Arizona. So we'll see how that works. Weird stat, something to keep track of though. The Penguins are undefeated in their black uniforms this season. So if you find out that they're home, maybe like peep the Twitter 2 hours in advance, make sure they're not wearing that mustard garbage. And if they aren't, then throw a couple bucks on them. And so far this season, the favored team has won 64% of the games played. Just a quirky little stat I found online that I was kind of fishing for. So it's something to keep in mind. 64% of the time, if you're betting the favorite, they're probably going to win.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all.
Yeah. One thing I was kind of paying attention to, and we started talking about it last episode too, but this is a cool season for betting in that lots of teams play back-to-backs or even 3-4 times in a row, like we were talking about. And it's getting to the point, I mean, we're about halfway through the season now, but it's getting to the point where if you have the NHL app, you can go on there and click on, for example, Caps Islanders tonight. And before the game has started, it'll show you the score of every single game that they've played against each other so far this season. And I mean, what's awesome about the NHL and one of my favorite things about hockey in general is that any team can beat any team on any given night. It's not like the NBA where you know exactly who's going to win if a certain matchup is happening. But I don't know, you can kind of look at these matchups and say, all right, well, this team has won all 3 games so far. They're not super, we're not talking about Buffalo and the Islanders here. We're talking about 2 comparable teams. You can kind of go with the trend that way and try to figure out who's going to win based on recent matchups, or like Harry's pick tonight with the Yotes. I mean, if you see a team get beat 2 games in a row by the same team and then they play a third night, there's a pretty good chance they're going to find a way to win that one. So I like looking at trends like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. You could look at the Nashville-Tampa game last night on March 15th. Nashville fucked them up. And it's because the game prior, Tampa, had its way with them, and they had their way with them for the previous 2 meetings, I think. So if you would have thrown a little dough on Nashville, I think they were plus 230 on the money line. That's perfect. I mean, that's what you kind of want. And I know RA on Chicklets has been saying that the price tags for the Winnipeg Jets have been phenomenal. They're definitely one team that you want to keep your eye on the money line for.
And that's who I've been looking at lately, because they sneakily slid their way into second place in that North Division.
Yeah, they look good. And
they were down at the bottom for a little while.
They owe a lot of that to Connor Hellebuck. He's looked really good this season.
Yeah.
One of the when I was looking at this last night, and I didn't bet it, and I wish I did, one of the players that I love goal prop bets for that you can get at a reasonable price, you bet Ovechkin, Matthews, McDavid, whatever, for them to get a goal, it's maybe minus 110 or something. It's not worth it. Kyle Connor.
Yeah,
that's a good one. He's in that plus 170 to 230 range, depending who they're playing, and he's got 14 tallies on the year so far. So Matthews is leading the league with 21, so that gives you an idea, some perspective.
That's a good one. Ehlers is good too. It's just so hot or cold. You just never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah, he's had a pretty good year too.
Yeah. First liner, fourth liner.
Yeah.
I'll go first. My first liner is going to be Vitek Vanacek. Finally got his first career shutout. He's been shouldering the load for the Caps this year and looked great last night against the Sabres. So hats off to him. My fourth liner is not a player. It's a coach. It's Ralph Kruger, because I don't think this guy is going to have a job much longer after this episode is released. So I don't know what is going on in Buffalo, but it's not good, and something's going to change pretty soon.
Yeah, I feel bad. I mean, just first season there, I think, right? So how much did they really expect? I know it wasn't this, but how much could they really expect? Depends if Eichel likes him, I think. I don't know. I don't know what to think, actually. I'm going to stop rambling on that. My first liner is going to be Tristan Jarry. He's largely the reason that the Penguins have soared up the standings in most people's power rankings. He's won 4 straight starts, and he's won 6 of his last 7. His save percentage in his last 3 has been a .950, so not bad company to be in. He was largely the reason that we were able to hold off the Bruins last night, so he's looked fantastic. Pittsburgh finally, has a goalie, it feels like. So if he can stay hot, look out. This team, I can't believe I'm saying this because I had no confidence coming into the year, but the Penguins could make some serious noise if he can keep this up. And then my fourth liner, across the state, Carter Hart. He has not looked good, and Philly has been drowning lately in the standings. In his last 5 games, he's 1-4. And he has allowed 17 goals total in that 5-game span. And his average save percentage in that span is an .801. So I think he said in one of the post-game interviews recently that he just wasn't feeling himself. Not really any rhyme or reason to it. He just says he hasn't felt his best. So he's definitely going to have to turn it around if Philly's going to keep making some noise. And I have some interesting stats on Philly that I'll clue you guys in on in the market report coming here shortly.
Yeah, you talk about earlier mentioned the Boston Bruins are getting a little bit desperate. I think the Flyers are getting a little bit desperate too. And both of those teams are getting desperate specifically because they're having goaltending issues, right? I mean, Boston is missing Rask for now. Yeah. And I don't know what to say about the goaltending situation for Philly because they've got 2 excellent goaltenders and neither one of them looks like themselves right now. So yeah, we'll get to more of that in a bit.
Mac, before you do your first liner, I just want you to know that this really pains my soul.
I know, and I'm gonna actually touch on that as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. So my first liner is none other than Daniel Sprong for the Washington Capitals. He has been really fun to watch. I think he's definitely had a few moments where I'm like, that was a bad play in our own zone. Like he's had multiple moments where I can specifically see him like turning the puck over. So I don't want to say his game's been perfect, but his offensive upside has kind of made up for it. I should have pulled the stats, but he's got 6 goals on the season now.
Yep.
I think he's got like a 4-game point streak going or something like that. My favorite thing here is what Harry just said. I saw at the very beginning of the season on Twitter, the Caps like account posting like the lineup for whatever game was that day. And at the bottom, it said like healthy scratches and like Sprong was one of them. And some Penguins fan commented on that and was like, yeah, unfortunately, I think we all know what you're going to get with Sprong. Like he's going to have like 2 goals on the season and like not do anything. Like you guys were stupid for even taking him, blah, 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 like all this stuff. And I read it and I didn't totally disagree at the time. I was like, yeah, I mean, we'll see, I guess, with this kid, but he's really proved that opinion wrong. And I know there's a lot of Penguins fans like Harry that are seeing him finally strive. The guy's only 23, 24. He could still pan out. And I think it just goes to show that some teams can give up on guys too early. And it also, it's an environmental thing too. Maybe he was never going to be good in Pittsburgh, and maybe the shakeup is what he needed. So I don't know.
Sullivan is way too much of a two-way hard for him to work in our lineup. I watched his first career game, and he had like, a couple stints up in pit, and he would jump back and forth. I always thought his hands were good. His speed was good. His shot is insane. When you are on a 2-on-1 with Ovechkin and you don't pass, you know that you have some type of shot.
His shot is ridiculous.
You've got to have big balls to do that too.
Yeah, and so I'm kind of happy for him. I guess maybe not. I don't know.
He looks like he's having a ton of fun out there too. I mean, he's like pretty much cracking up after that goal he scores when he's on the 2-on-1 with Ovi. He's like laughing his ass off afterwards because he didn't pass to Ovi on a 2-on-1. But Harry's right. I mean, when you have a wicked wrister like that, the shot he had last night that went in, he probably, I know Craig Laughlin said it a couple times, he could have had a hat trick with how many chances he had against the
rang
Sabres.
The post a couple times, I think, right?
But the goal he scored was like, my God, like he put it in a teacup.
Yeah. He's definitely got offensive upside, and I am happy that he is finding his groove. I'm just not happy that it's with the team that it's with. So
fair enough. Moving on to former Penguins, fourth liner for my picks this week is Phil Kessel. He's having an okay year, so I hate to pick on him, but he is a little cold lately. He's got 2 points in his last 8 games with the Yotes. That's good for 1 goal and 1 assist. I think he's a veteran in a lineup where he needs to shine more than that, and he needs to be contributing on a nightly basis. So I think it's fair to kind of pick on him a little bit here.
I think that's fair. I mean, he was brought there to score goals. So
I'm so much happier that we have Kapanen now than him. I will just be honest. Kapanen's so much better.
Yeah. Let's move on to the market report. I'll get things started. My up team, Florida. Not much else to say other than the fact that they've won 4 in a row. They're leading their division. And like Harry mentioned, they're leading the league. They are the #1 team in the National Hockey League right now. So hats off to them. My down team is going to be the St. Louis Blues. They're a little bit flat right now. They're still hanging on to that 4th spot, I believe, in the West. And they are on a 4-game skid. So they definitely have to do something, whether that's make a move at the deadline or, do a roster change now. They've got to do something to shake that up.
100%. For my up team, I am going to have the hometown boys, the Pittsburgh Penguins. They are 8-2 in their last 10. They're riding a 6-game win streak. They're undefeated in black unis, and Evgeny Malkin is looking like he's 27 years old again. So that is a great sign for us. Dumoulin being back is so huge. We were missing him for like months. He is so important to our defensive core. He's like, honestly, I think Marino has the most upside. I think Letang is probably still the best. But as far as just steady Eddie, Dumoulin's been perfect. If they could just bring back up Pierre Joseph, I would be very happy with that.
Over the past 5 years, as a Caps fan, I can confidently say that Dumoulin is probably besides like Crosby, Dumoulin is like the one player from the Penguins that I would most want like on my team. Like I've always loved his game, and you can't underestimate how important he is to that lineup.
Yeah, I don't think it's any coincidence, and obviously the goaltending's been stellar. So good things for the Pens. They're looking good, and this makes my heart warm. The down team is going to be the Philadelphia Flyers. Here's a stat for you. Since the start of February, they are 3-7-2 against teams that are not named the Buffalo Sabres. Their defense and goaltending, I would say, has been suspect lately. And their two biggest rivals, arguably the Capitals and the Penguins, have had their way with them in recent matchups. Not looking so great for Philly. They currently sit 5th in the division. They have 31 points with 26 games played, and Boston is in 4th place with 32 points in 26 games played. I had a drunken discussion over the weekend with my friends, and it's really like, who's that one oddball team? Is it Pittsburgh? Is it Boston? Is it Philly? I don't think it's going to be the Caps or the Islanders at this point. Who's that odd team that's going to miss?
Someone's missing out, and it's just a numbers thing. There's those sort of, what is it? It's like 5 teams that you could say, like, these are the 5 that are fighting for these 4 spots, and one team is going to miss it. I honestly don't know who it's going to be at this point, and I think it could be any of them, really.
I think at the beginning of the season when we made our predictions, I was really hot on the take that the Bruins would somehow screw it up and miss because of their defense. Yeah. And we talked about them missing Chara and Krug and what that was going to do to their decor. And they started out looking like they were going to totally make us look stupid and prove us wrong. But that prediction is not out of the woods at this point. I mean, they have struggled a lot lately. I'll get to that in a moment when I talk about my down team, but they definitely could be the team that misses out.
I agree. Yeah. I think, Mac, you and I think we're the ones who were saying that at the season preview episode. So I think it's going to be Philly. I just don't think I think Philly's a better team than Boston on paper, but I think that Boston has enough experience, grit, leadership that they're not going to let that happen.
They get Tuukka back, they'll probably get rolling again too.
Yeah, and I pray to God if it's Pittsburgh, I'm going to end up jumping off a cliff. I mean, right now we are very comfortable with the gap that we have between us and Philly right now, and I hope it stays like that. So that's all I got to say.
All right, so my trending up team is going to be none other than the New York Islanders. They've won 9 straight. Hopefully that ends tonight with the Caps. I honestly can't say I'm super confident. I'm kind of nervous. That game's about to start actually in 2 minutes. But anyway, they've looked really good, and even without their captain for a handful of those games too, and moving forward without him. Down team, we just talked about it. The Bruins, they have 2 wins in their last 7 games. They got shut out by the Rangers and the Devils in the same week. I believe that was 1-0 and 4-0, which is just like, what are we doing? Also, that Rangers game that they got shut out 4-0, the previous game, they shut out the Rangers 4-0. So it's like, what, like the Bruins they're kind of all over the place right now. They haven't looked tight. They definitely need to clean up their game if they don't want to be that odd man out, because there's only so much room to go on cold streaks in such a shortened season here.
Yeah, for sure.
Before we toss this off to Corey, because that wraps it up on the hockey part of this episode, just be sure to follow us on Book It Sports. You can download Book It Sports. It's a social media app for sports gamblers. And I would imagine that we might dabble a little bit with it in our college basketball picks. Maybe we'll see.
Why not? Can't hurt.
Exactly. So we are going to let Corey give you guys his latest on the March Madness. And as far as the hockey part, we'll be back with you next week, and we'll see you later.
All right. It is now my pleasure to welcome on one of my closest friends, professional sports gambling idiot and college basketball connoisseur, Mr. Corey Goldstein. Fired up to have you here today, bud. Always good whenever I get to see your smiling face. So how's it going? What have you been up to lately? Are you as hard for this tournament as I am?
Yeah, I've been hard probably since March 2020. So I've been, waiting a long time for this. I would say March 11th, 2020 might have been the worst day I've had in the last 5 years, probably.
100%.
And honestly, it definitely sounds selfish because I'm talking about college basketball and many people lost their jobs and lives, but I love college basketball. This is my life.
Yeah, it is. It's the best sporting event out there, and we were robbed of it last year. So just want to get your thoughts on what we have, on the table for us this year. Who do you like? Who do you not like? Who are some sleepers? And, who's someone that's overrated? Who's someone that's going to falter?
Sure. So I think this is going to be one of the more fun years we have because of the effect of COVID. So we've seen throughout the year, especially with gambling, teams that go on COVID pause do not win the next game out of the gate, even 3 or 4 after that. So first we'll look at Virginia, like a great, very well coached team, great top to bottom, shoot the ball really well, play really good defense like always. But then they go on this COVID pause for 5 days, uncertainty. You have no idea what's going to happen. And then you run into a team like Ohio who won 4 games in 4 days. And you're like, holy shit, what do I do now? Ohio's a really good team. I actually picked, that's my biggest upset in the first round, Ohio over Virginia.
Wow.
They have a point guard, Jason Preston, who's going to be an NBA point guard. Yeah, super high on Ohio. Other than that, I mean, I'm wearing my team. I watch them every night. Gonzaga's the team to beat. It's top to bottom NBA players, literally 7 NBA players that play the entire game. I look at the bracket and they gave them a cakewalk because they knew they deserved it last year. And here they are this year. They're going to fly this year.
So that's usually, I think, where, we think Gonzaga, or we see Gonzaga, at least I do. It's like, there's been a lot of times where they're a 1 seed coming in and they don't make it past the Elite 8 or the Sweet 16. And they just seem to not have, the gas in the tank. What's different about this team this year that you think makes them the shoo-in?
Yeah, I think it's experience. That's the biggest thing. They have Corey Kispert, who's on the AP first team, who's an unbelievable scorer, going to be a great player at the next level. I think of him as like a faster Kevin Love kind of player who also dominated when he was in college. But the big thing about Gonzaga this year is they beat Iowa by 11, who's in their bracket. They beat Kansas by 12, who's also in their bracket. They beat Virginia by 23, who also is in their side of the bracket. So you see all these teams that they've played, and it's like, how is this team not going to run through, their corner of the bracket?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm curious what your thoughts are on Baylor. I hear a lot of people talking about they might be like one of the hottest picks to win it all this year. Do you think they're the real deal, or is there like something underneath that not enough people are talking about there?
Yeah, I think they're really, really good. Depth is definitely the biggest thing in the tournament where you're just playing nonstop. It's a different arena and you have guys that come out cold and you kind of have to have other guys to step up. Baylor's got 2 NBA guards that start for them, Jared Butler and Davion Mitchell, who are both studs. They bring Matthew Meyer off the bench. Maceo Teague, a transfer from UNC Asheville, shoots the lights out. So that team also is another one where you look at their side of the bracket and it's like, they'll play North Carolina, who's been there before, probably steamroll a team like that. Villanova's weak this year. Texas Tech is okay. So I think this is, I think that we lost Gonzaga Baylor to COVID early in the year. And I think the committee was like, if we can really get that matchup again, let's put teams in this bracket that they can get through.
Who would you say is your dark horse in the tournament? What, that money line that's going to like hit for like 2 or 3 games that you can really make some profit off?
The Loyola Chicago, if you will.
Yeah. I think it's going to be St. Bonaventure, actually. I think that's the team. Yeah. So the A-10 was really, really good this year. They're awesome. They play, so the first round they play LSU, who has 3 NBA guards. So they're going to have a tough time. But then they play Michigan, who's going to be without their best player, Isaiah Livers. And I think that is going to change the whole course of this tournament. Because like Nick and I watch a lot of Big Ten basketball. Michigan was the real deal for a long time.
I will begrudgingly admit that. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think St. Bonaventure, they score really well. They were like a top 5 defense in the whole country this year. So the Bonnies are definitely one of my big teams. And I feel bad, Harrison. You texted me the other night, asked me about Georgetown, and I was trying to be practical. I never jump on bandwagons, and I gave you the wrong advice. So I'm sorry about that.
It happens. It happens.
Yeah.
And I'm not the biggest college basketball connoisseur, so I apologize. But if I'm not mistaken, isn't one of the matchups that people always look as the 12v5?
Yeah.
Is there a 12v5 where you like the 12?
I think the first one you really have to look at is Villanova, which is kind of crazy. They weren't great all year, and ESPN does this thing where it's like, it's Jay Wright. They've been there. They had the magical run where they hit the huge shot. It's like Villanova's been there. They're great. All those Villanova teams had good point guards, and Colin Gillespie, who's their starting senior point guard leader, out for the entire tournament with a torn MCL. And their backup also had an ankle injury during the Big East tournament. Winthrop plays like 11 guys, and they all average almost double-digit minutes. So it's like, even if you think they're going to come out hot and then kind of slow down, like they have a whole another round of teams. So, yeah, I think Villanova is the scariest one. I think that's going to be a really good game.
I can personally vouch for Villanova choking, as I've been fortunate enough to see Marquette beat them in a couple of big games. Corey, I don't know if you know, but I went to Marquette, and I'm super bummed that they didn't make it this year. I can't say I expected them to after the season they had, but we were a total just schizophrenic team this year. I mean, we lost to DePaul. We beat UNC. We had all kinds of weird wins and weird losses. So
they have one of my favorite players too, DJ Carton from Ohio State.
DJ Carton is so fun to watch, and I thought he'd be a great player to watch in the tournament if they somehow found a way to get in. But he'll be around hopefully for another couple of years with us, as long as he doesn't transfer or some shit. But
no, I mean, look, the Big East as a whole wasn't very good this year. It was a hard tournament to win, and I think that's why Georgetown was able to get through, because it's these teams beat each other up all year, and all it takes is playing well for 4 days, and you can get in.
Exactly. As long as the Badgers get knocked out early on, I won't be too upset.
Yeah.
So I think one of the unique things about this tournament this year is it's all in one location.
Mm-hmm.
You look at who's the home team, it's Purdue. They come in as a 4 seed. They're in that same corner of the bracket as Baylor, same as North Carolina, same as Wisconsin, same as Nova. Can that team get out of that section of the bracket, or do you think, home field advantage or home court advantage just isn't enough?
Well, I think that's a really good point. And I'm just looking back on it. Indiana college basketball is the best college basketball in the country. So these games are going to be so fun to watch teams play in these unbelievable places like Hinkle, where Butler played, where Hoosiers was filmed, Assembly Hall, where Indiana plays, and Mackey, where Purdue plays, is unbelievable. I think Purdue can absolutely get through that part of the bracket. North Texas is a pretty good team they're going to play, but Purdue is the biggest team in the whole tournament. They're really young, but I really like them. And look, their seasons, playing in the Big Ten is not easy. It's like playing the AFC North, where you're just getting beat up all year. Playing in the NFC North, just playing tough teams. And I think that's what makes Big Ten teams have a good chance. So yeah, Purdue has a dude that's 7'4", twice the size of Angus. So I think that's why I could definitely see them getting through.
I don't know where they get these guys. I don't know if there's some factory in Indiana that they're pulling them out from, but it's I feel like they've had this same 7'4" guy for the last 10 years.
Yeah, and if you watch the Maryland Purdue game that happened a month ago, Maryland's players were literally like little kids trying to climb a tree on this dude getting rebounds. It was hysterical, and they pulled out a win too.
Right.
So what can we expect from Maryland?
Well, I think Nick's point is interesting because Maryland's first game is at Purdue. So it's somewhere they've been before, a place they've played for years. And Turgeon, there are dimensions to it. In the tournament, when you get later on, you're playing in football stadiums where the depth perception is so different. That's why a lot of guys have a tough time shooting in the NBA. So where guys have seen an arena before, I'd love, obviously as a homer, I would love Maryland to go far. UConn is one of my other big sleepers, actually. I think that's a potential Final Four team actually out of that bracket.
Yeah, it's a tough draw for Maryland to get UConn in the first round for sure.
Yeah, they do it to us a lot. I think Turgeon is someone that isn't loved around the country. He kind of complains a lot. He's not a Big Ten. Coaches are not a big fan of him. But yeah, UConn's a team that's going to be a tough game. But Maryland can defend with anybody. I actually think that game, I think, is going to be the best of the whole first round.
Got to ask the big boy question. So who's in your Final Four? All
right. So I went to bed pretty early after Sunday, after I watched the show, because it's exhausting for me, just because you get really excited and then you just kind of pass out. So out of the West, I have Gonzaga. Bottom left, I have Texas actually coming out. So I have Michigan losing to St. Bonaventure. And then St. Bonaventure getting all the way to the Elite Eight to play Texas. So I have Texas there. Baylor top right. Like Max said, they're a good team. They kind of slowed down for a little. They had that quick COVID pause, but they're a really good team. And the other team I have is Houston, who I have beating Illinois in the bottom right. So Gonzaga, Texas, Baylor, and Houston.
Illinois has been a tough team to handle all year.
Yeah.
They throttled Sparty. They won the Big Ten championship, their first since I believe 2005. I think it's interesting you say that they'd have a hard time with Houston, but I think Houston's a fantastic team and could absolutely throttle them if they really wanted to.
Yeah, sometimes it takes that big transfer. It happens in every sport, that one trade, that one transfer that gets you there. So Houston got this guy, Quentin Grimes from Kansas last year, who was a top 10 recruit. He plugged himself right in, plays great D. He's a big guard. Like, one of the biggest things playing against these small schools is like, they may have small guards that score 20 points a game, and then they play against these like grown men ready for the NBA. That's why I think Houston is going to be a really, really tough out.
And then who you got in your championship game with the score?
So I feel like I've talked enough about Houston to not have them in my championship. I have Houston getting there against my boys, Gonzaga. And just for all the fans at home, I've been a Gonzaga homer for a really long time. My brother and I have been watching them for like 20 years, so not a bandwagon fan. I have Gonzaga beating Houston 84-80 in a really high scoring but really good
Wow.
game. Yeah.
Okay.
And, yeah, I think I really am. I'm excited about every tournament, but there's so many good players. Like Oklahoma State has that guy, Cade Cunningham, who's going to be the first pick in the NBA draft. Texas has a full team of NBA players. Iowa's got Garzilla. So, yeah, this is going to be a really, really good one.
So I've got to ask the selfish question. My Spartans, they're an 11 seed, and they're going to have to do the play-in, which we were just talking about this earlier on the episode, how I think it's ridiculous that the 11 seed is the play-in. It just doesn't make sense.
It makes no sense.
They've got a tough matchup in UCLA. Do you see them being able to get out of that and into the rest of the bracket?
I think they're going to have an easy time with UCLA. UCLA lost one of their best players, Chris Smith. So once that happened, that team kind of fell off. And look, it's January, February, though. That's the way it is. I mean, they would play BYU the next round. It's actually a pretty good team. They have one of the big guys from Purdue, Arms, the guy that was 7'2" from a few years ago. He transferred over to BYU. But I think that would be a really good game. But look, he knows how to get it done. That's what Izzo does. I think Aaron Henry's a really good player. And I think, sometimes you just need that one guy that can kind of push you over the hump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they're missing the point guard. Rocket Watts isn't exactly what, we thought he was going to be. And the gap left by Cassius Winston, you just can't fill that.
Absolutely. I usually put out that Facebook post that I have for all those people that don't watch college basketball, just kind of educating, it's like late night thoughts that I kind of just post. But having a senior guard or just even a leader guard is one of the biggest things that gets you through this entire tournament. I mean, It's happened. Every single championship team for the last 20 years has had an unbelievable point guard.
I'm looking at the odds right now from FanDuel. So obviously Gonzaga's first at -210, which sounds insane to say that as someone who's going to win a tournament. Seems that's big.
It's crazy.
And then they got Baylor at second at +115, Illinois at third at +145, Michigan at 220, and then Iowa at 350, tied with Houston, by the way. I know you're big on them. So is there like a value, is there a value pick that you see? Like, I mean, obviously Gonzaga is the favorite, but.
Yeah, I think Florida State. I think the year before the tournament, Florida State was flying. They got all the way to the Elite Eight, I think, and they were playing so well. They actually beat Gonzaga that year. That was like their first big test, and Florida State won. Leonard Hamilton's a really good coach. They're well-rounded. They always have these freak athletes. They're long. Like I said, it's something that a lot of these small schools don't see a lot. So when you have this length and this like big boy mentality, I think Florida State has a chance to fly. So I'm not sure exactly what their odds are, but Florida State is a great flyer to throw in there.
They are at +700, tied with Texas.
Seriously, could not love that more. And then I think Oklahoma State is another pick. I mean, we don't usually see freshmen like carry teams through since like that Kentucky team that had Anthony Davis. But I really, really think that Oklahoma State played tough all year. They're seasoned because of the Big 12, and they won a lot of games down the stretch. So I wouldn't be surprised seeing Oklahoma State making a run.
They're at +600. So yeah, those are good value picks.
Yeah, I like those two a lot.
That's solid.
Yeah.
Just a quick to the point, give the people what they want. The amount of energy that you get off of talking about this is contagious and incredible. So keep it up. I'll be looking. Are you going to do that Facebook post again this year?
Yeah, probably tomorrow night. I wasn't in grad school the other time, so I have no time to myself, but this is like my first night to like dig in, block out everybody and kind of like start to take a look. But yeah, this is going to be an awesome tournament. I'm excited. I'm excited for you guys to share it with me.
Yeah. Pumped.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Well, we appreciate you joining us, and good luck gambling for the next month.
You too. I think I'll give you guys one quick game that I think is going to be easy to bet.
Get a lock.
I think UNC is going to kill Wisconsin in the first round. I think Wisconsin's dead, and we're going to get something small. I don't remember exactly what my number is there, but if you can get something really small, like before it kind of creeps up a little, I think UNC is the pick there.
Hell yeah, I would love to hear that.
Good shit.
Yep.
All right, well, we appreciate it. Thanks, Corey.
Thanks, bud.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you later.